Hello and welcome to Guelph GradCast, the only podcast dedicated to bringing you real conversations with real University of Guelph grads. I'm your host, Ryan, and today in the podcast, I'm joined by Laurel McGillis. Laurel graduated from the University of Guelph's Biomedical Science program in 2016. Since then, she's gone on to earn a PhD in Medical Science from the University of Toronto, and she also just finished med school at Western University, which means she'll not only have the privilege of being a member of one of our society's most essential and important professions, but she also gets to look forward to her friends and family always asking her if she could look at that rash. Welcome to the podcast, Laurel. And wait, should I call you doctor now? Is it like official now?
Laurel's okay. It is
Okay.
official,
Oh,
but
all right. All right.
you can use Laurel.
Does it feel any different? Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. Um, I think in patient interactions it does. Like I don't have to
Hmm.
say I'm the medical student anymore. I can say I'm your doctor, which is pretty cool after all these years.
Does it seem weird to like sign stuff and write like doctor?
Yeah,
Have
I'm
you?
still not used to that yet. I'm only
Right,
like
right.
4 weeks in, so
Okay. Do you secretly kind of like hope that you'll be on a plane in the future and there'll be a medical emergency and they'll say, hey, is there a doctor on board? And you get to raise your hand.
that actually happened to me twice while I was in med school,
Really?
and thankfully there were more qualified people than I, but I'm sure it will happen at some point.
All
It's
right.
okay.
Well, maybe that's just my weird perception of it. Well, the reason we're here is because you're a University of Guelph grad. So I would love to talk about, why you chose University of Guelph and why you chose the program that you did.
Yeah, of course. First of all, thanks for having me on the
And
podcast
no
today.
worries.
When I think back to when I was choosing the program in the university I wanted to go to way back in high school, I remember sitting on my parents' couch and going through the University of Guelph website and the biomed page specifically, and just looking at all the courses that were offered. And I just remember being so excited about all the courses, and that's kind of what piqued my interest in Guelph. I will say that I was considering other programs at other schools, and so I decided to set up a few tours. And that's ultimately what drew me to Guelph and what sealed the deal was the campus tour. I went with a couple of my friends that were also considering Guelph and my dad. And I just remembered that everything from the city to the campus and the people I met, it just felt like home and it just felt like somewhere I wanted to spend the next 4 years of my life. The other thing is that I played competitive lacrosse growing up, and Guelph has an amazing varsity program, and they had a great lacrosse team, and so that was another pull for me as well. So between the program, the campus, and the varsity athletics, it just felt like the perfect fit for me.
That's awesome. Yeah, I honestly have talked to quite a few people now, and that is a consistent through line is the campus and doing a
Yeah.
tour. Not just the programs, but yeah, they get here and they're like, "Oh my God, this it's gorgeous." The community feels really great. Um, and so once you kind of got in the program, was it what you expected? Like, as you said, you were very interested in. Did you find the experience was positive? Like, did you like enjoy your professors, or is there any kind of standout courses or kind of experiences that you had?
Yeah, so I'll say the first 2 years of any program is kind of more generic. You have to get the basics down. And it was when I got to third and fourth year that those courses that I got so excited about in high school, like I finally got to be in them. And the class sizes started getting smaller. You really got to start knowing your professors. And so that was a huge highlight for me was getting to do these specialized courses that I was so interested in. And then also having professors that I knew and that knew me and that organically just became my mentors. And they're the reason that I did what I did after undergrad is because it was through sitting down with them and having conversations with them about what I want and what the next options could look like. And so that was a really special part of Guelph, in my opinion.
Yes. What were those courses that you were like really excited about?
I would say the most pivotal one that I did was the Research in Biomedical Sciences course. So it's a thesis based course. You can do a 1 or 2 semester version of it. I did the 2 semester version. So for my entire fourth year, I was working in a basic science lab, and it was my first time in a lab. I was working with mice, I was doing experiments, I was learning how to be a critical thinker and how to write scientific papers. And I just fell in love with that process. I had a really supportive supervisor as well. And at the end of my fourth year, I just knew that I was interested in medical school, but I knew I had to pursue research first because it was such a passion of mine. And so my supervisor was really supportive in that process of me applying to grad school. And then I actually ended up doing my PhD in the same field that I did my undergrad research in. So I'd say it made honestly a huge difference in my life, like in terms of how things ended up. And I'm really grateful for it.
Uh-huh. And what was that transition like when you went from like an undergrad to a graduate program? Was it like a bit of a shock? I mean, or was it like everything you hoped it would be?
So I'd say the most shocking part was that I moved from Guelph to Toronto. And so it was just a big change in that sense. But I felt like I was really prepared as well because of that course. Like I said, I was in the same field. So I studied Crohn's disease both in my undergrad and my PhD studies using mouse models. And so I was doing a lot of the same experiments, and I felt like I had a really good base. So it was a big change in some ways, but in other ways, I felt really prepared for it. And it was a really natural next step.
Yes, I know. So you talked about the research aspect. I know a lot of people really praise the human anatomy lab. Did
Mhm.
you have an experience with that, and what was that like?
Yeah, so I'd say that was another standout course for me. I will say that anatomy isn't necessarily my favorite,
That's fair.
but
That's
it
fair.
was very helpful. Guelph is one of the few undergraduate institutions that has cadaver labs, and it's, in my opinion, the best way to learn anatomy. And being in med school, even though I started med school years after taking that anatomy course, I felt so prepared. We have to do cadaver lab at my med school and have a pretty in-depth anatomy course. And I felt like I had such a great knowledge base that I didn't have to put as much into it because I already kind of knew the ins and outs because of that anatomy program at Guelph. So it's not my personal favorite in terms of interest, but I'm really glad that I did it and I'm really glad it's offered and I would recommend it to people as well.
Yes. And you said you were like considering med school, but then weren't sure. When did that thought enter your head that that was a real prospect, a real thing you wanted to pursue?
I would say in third and fourth year of my undergrad is when I started really thinking about it seriously. Um, I don't come from a family of medical people, and it felt like something a little bit out of reach for me, to be honest. Um, I did really well in my third and fourth year of undergrad, which set me up because then it kind of came on the table as a real option for me because of that. And I think I did well because I was enjoying what I did so much. So I did want to explore research first. And I actually started in a master's program. I ended up transferring to a PhD program, but throughout my time in research, it was my goal to do medical school afterward. And I think that Guelph really set me up well for that.
So outside of academics, how was your time at the university? Was there anything you kind of miss? Like now that you've been away for a few years, like I think you graduated almost 10 years ago. Uh,
Yeah, can't believe
do
it.
you, do you still like think fondly about it? Is there things, aspects of the campus or maybe just the community that you miss?
Yeah, I think really fondly of my time at Guelph. I miss it a lot. I would say that, having been on the varsity lacrosse team, that was a huge part of my undergrad experience. I still have friends from that team to this day, and I still keep in touch with some people I used to play with. So I'd say that was a big thing, and just looking back fondly on all the memories and all the things that we used to get up to at Guelph, I'll always cherish that time.
Nice. And like lacrosse is a fairly intense sport, and but it's a very like difficult and like very important team sport. Do you find that some of the lessons that you learned just being as a part of a team and kind of having to overcome, difficulties and challenges on the field have translated to either your schoolwork or even the work you're doing right now?
100%. I think that the main thing that lacrosse taught me when I was in undergrad was time management. Um, we were practicing when in season almost every day, and then we would travel and play games on the weekends. And so it was very time intensive. And so balancing that with also a rigorous academic program was definitely a challenge. And I think that I honestly think that being a student athlete is what has like allowed me to accomplish everything that I've done today to date. Just being able to balance multiple roles and manage your time and have multiple passions and pursue multiple things at once. And that's something that I still strive to do.
Hmm. Yeah, I think sometimes people think they're either like I'm an athletic person or I'm like into science and academics, but like really they kind of carry over. There's a lot of overlap, and that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Um, and so you just finished medical school, and I believe you just started your residency.
Yeah. So I started residency about 4 weeks ago. I'm in family medicine at Western.
And how has that been? Now being in like kind of the real world as opposed to being in the classroom or being, learning about it.
It's been really fun so far, and I feel like all of the years that I put into finally being here have really paid off. And it's so far everything that I'd hoped it would be.
And is family medicine, is that what you want to focus on? Is that what your main area you want to be a part of?
Yeah, so I'm doing a bit more of a rural program in family medicine. And so I'm going to have exposure in my family training to hospitalist and emergency medicine. And so in the future, I hope to do a little bit of a mix of family and emerge and maybe a couple other things we'll see. But yeah.
It's really cool.
Mhm.
Um, and I believe outside of your major, you also minored in nutritional and nutraceutical sciences. Am I saying that right?
Yeah,
Yeah. And
yeah,
so could you
nutraceutical
talk a
science.
bit more about that and what that entailed?
Sure. So that was actually a minor that I picked up a little bit later in my studies. I think in third year is when I kind of made it official. I actually into Guelph thinking I would minor in French, and I started pursuing that. I found that it was a little bit difficult scheduling wise to do a major in a science program and a minor in an arts program, just because there are certain courses that you have to take for your major that conflict with courses that you need to take with your minor, like just in terms of when classes are offered. And so basically, because of scheduling, I would have had to do a fifth year in order to get that minor. So I ended up dropping that after first year just because I didn't think that it was worth doing a whole extra year just to get that minor in French. So then I started thinking, what else can I minor in and what other scientific things can I minor in? And that's when I found nutrition and nutraceutical sciences. It actually aligned really well with the research that I was doing in my fourth year as well. And just again, the courses that were offered through that program just really spoke to me and I was really excited about. And so it just was something that just kind of happened. And yeah, it's fun.
Nice. And research and communication is like I think a really big important thing, especially nowadays, because I think people maybe misunderstand it. And like a lot of times they just see a news article and it's like, oh, blueberries are good for you.
Mhm.
What is it that maybe people misunderstand when it comes to research, especially when it comes to like animal studies and how that translates to humans, and maybe why a result that's really positive, maybe in a animal study, doesn't always carry over to humans.
Yeah, that was a big part of kind of what I learned in undergrad was to how to critically analyze research papers and apply it to the real world. So mice are not humans, and one study, you can't, infer results also just from one study. You really need to take conglomerates of studies and look at the statistics overall to see kind of what applies. Um, so yeah, I would say that a lot of times there will be headlines that are based off of just one study in animals or one study in humans that has a really small sample size. And so just having those skills to be able to go in and look at the methods of the paper and realize their limitations is a really important skill. And that's something that I started learning in fourth year with my all my research that I was doing there. And yeah, I would say it's definitely been a useful skill to have, especially surrounding the pandemic and, things that were coming out around that time. So it's
Yeah.
definitely a good skill to have.
I imagine, especially to being in family medicine, like speaking directly to your patients directly about whatever kind of health issues they're struggling with. Like, oh, I thought
Yeah.
this was supposed to be good for me, or should I try this? And I imagine you're managing a lot of that.
Yeah, also, I would say now a huge thing is AI and everyone having access to the internet and things like ChatGPT and different AI platforms, and coming to you with a diagnosis. You know, in the past, what happens historically is that patients will come in with symptoms, and then you, as their physician, will make the diagnosis and recommend treatment. But now it's a little bit flipped. It's like patients have already done that work. They've come in with what they think is the diagnosis. And sometimes um, you just really have to get on that level with the patient and kind of start from scratch and really get at their symptoms so that you can have a correct diagnosis and a correct treatment plan. But yeah, I think the use of AI, especially in medicine, is just really interesting. It's a really rapidly growing field. But then on the other side, it's like the patients also have more access to these kind of things now. So it's something that we definitely have to learn to manage.
Is that something that came up in your schooling or even now, how to incorporate AI or how to deal with it?
I would say not formally, but just in practice, I've definitely come across mostly family doctors using things like AI scribes. So in family medicine, there's a huge burden of paperwork that you have to do, a huge administrative burden, and that's a big deterrent from the specialty. And so now things like AI scribes are coming out where you'll just turn on the scribe and you'll have a conversation with a patient. And the scribe will create a note because every patient interaction, you need to do a note. And a lot of times during the day, you're so busy that you don't have time to get those notes done. So then you're working on those in the evening and on the weekends. And this is kind of unpaid time that you're working, and it's a huge contributor to burnout. So I think that the whole field of AI, and especially AI scribes, is really interesting and very applicable to family medicine. And I'm personally really excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, because imagine if you see so many patients through a day, maybe like if you're going back and looking at your notes and you're like, you're just, trying to make an assessment based on the notes you took. But if they maybe said something you didn't hear or missed,
Mhm,
at least with the AI, that could be actually really beneficial. And I
mhm,
do know the administrative part is like a big issue because a lot of times doctors are almost managing it like a business. They need to manage
mhm.
their location, their staff, and not just that, but then be able to help their patients.
Yeah.
So, no, that's really interesting. Um, and so, like, now that you've, done this for a little bit now, do you find you're still, even now, still looking back on some of the education and knowledge that you gained at the University of Guelph, even in your role currently?
Yeah, I'd say 100%. I think that it just gave me a really good foundation, and that over the last 9 years since I've graduated, I've been building on that foundation. But I think it's actually quite shocking about how much I'm still using every day what I learned at Guelph. I think it's more too than just the actual knowledge, it's the experience and the mentorship and just the way that I've been able to kind of do everything that I wanted because I had mentors that really believed in me and gave me the confidence to pursue because I it can be really scary deciding what you want to do after undergrad. And so the connections that I made at Guelph and having those people that helped me find my path was just something that I will be grateful for forever.
Yeah, having that outside perspective too is really helpful. I know, anecdotally, people who are intellectually really smart tend to be less confident because they're really smart and they're more critical of themselves. So sometimes if you can have someone who can mentor you and say like, "Hey, you are really good at this. Yes, you can do this," that can help you get to where you are today. Um, do you find now being in just out of school that you've come across other Guelph grads or the topic comes up that, oh, you went to University of Guelph?
Yeah, 100%. Even in med school, there have been some of my classmates that went to Guelph and that did the biomed program. And like I always joke because we never even crossed paths because I did 5 years of my PhD before med school. So I didn't cross paths with them, but you still have this connection with them, even though you were never on campus at the same time. Once a Griffin, always a Griffin.
Yeah, yeah, it is really nice, and it's I think for the most part pretty positive. I've never really come across someone who found out I went to University of Guelph and they were kind of put off by it. But um, and so, is there anything about the campus that you like? I know a lot of people talk about the food, and I know that's a big thing that people say. The University of Guelph food is really good. Um, does that ring true for you? And was there anything particular there like, oh, I still crave that sometimes?
Yeah, I definitely think that Guelph's food scene is way better than a lot of the other universities. Um, I was in South Prairie when I was in first year, so we had that cafeteria there. I remember they had Mongolian grill, I think it was.
Mhm.
That was like our treat that we loved to go make a bowl. Um, yeah, I would say Creelman's too, doing like sometimes after morning practice, we do little team brunches at Creelman's, which was really good. Yeah, there's definitely tons of options.
Mhm. Yeah, when I go into the office, I'm always like, I purposely don't pack a lunch because I'm like, I'm gonna go into the UC and I'm gonna get something good, because it's worthwhile. It's quite delicious. Um, and so, like, what is your kind of like long term vision of where you want to be in the next 5, 10 years?
So my family medicine residency, since I just started, is going to be for the next 2 years. And then I hope to do a third year of residency, specifically just getting more training in emergency medicine. And so that's 3 years. And then after that, I will see what the job market looks like. I'd definitely be open to doing things like locums, which is basically kind of short-term positions where you'll move somewhere and cover for a short period of time, either, any period of time from a week to a year. So yeah, I'd be open to doing some locuming or just kind of see what's available and where I'm at that point in my life and where I want to live. But the good thing about the field I'm going into, family and emerge, is that it's very much needed. So I will not have a shortage of opportunities in terms of jobs, which I'm really grateful for. And it's just kind of depends on where I want to be and what I want to do. So I'm really grateful for that.
Yeah, it's really essential. Like even in a city like Guelph, I'm pretty lucky to have a family doctor, but some people don't have that
Yeah.
luxury because for whatever reason, maybe their doctor retired, maybe they're new to the city. Um, and it's a really essential, really important part of the community too. I think you
Uh-huh.
have the opportunity to really connect with the community in a really real, important way.
Uh-huh.
Well, I know you're a busy person. I think you said you were working nights. um,
Yes, I have a night shift in the emergency department today. It's exciting.
Very fun.
Always interesting.
So I don't want to keep you too long. Was there anything we didn't talk about that you want to touch on that you want to get out there?
I guess I would just say as like a parting message to anyone who's considering the biomed program or considering going to Guelph, I would say just do a tour because that's what really helped contextualize things for me and what kind of sealed the deal. Um, I will say that when it came to tours, I actually had a different number one school and program. And when I went on campus, it just didn't feel right. And then I did my tour at Guelph, and that's when I could really see myself there. So I'm really glad that I took that opportunity to do those tours and to make the decision that was right for me because my time at Guelph I wouldn't change it for the world. I'm really happy with that decision. So that would be my parting message.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you again for taking the time to talk with us. I really appreciate it. If you like what you heard today, please like and subscribe to wherever you get your podcasts. For the latest updates, be sure to follow us on all our socials. And for more info, you can always visit uofguelph.ca. I'll put all the links in our show notes. Our show's theme is actually by Paige Rutledge, who is also a Guelph grad. And we'll be back next week with an all new conversation with a new Guelph grad. So till next time, thank you so much for listening and see you later.
Thanks, Ryan.